9 months after promising a cap-and-trade plan, Barbara Boxer has now unveiled her climate bill, placeholders and all. This afternoon, she and co-author John Kerry assembled about a dozen senators for the public release of the Clean Energy Jobs and American Power Act. As expected, many of the most contentious details are still to be worked out. Clean Sky's Tyler Suiters was there for this rollout and spoke with both of the bill's authors. So Tyler, this bill's finally out. How fast are you hearing it can move forward?
Well, according to Barbara Boxer, Susan, really as soon as possible. She says that is when she wants the chairman's markup, the markup in which Harry Reid comes to her committee itself, the Environment and Public Works Committee, puts his stamp on this thing. She said it could be out of committee within weeks, but she was very clear to say, I won't give an exact date in terms of Boxer-Kerry getting out of the Environment Committee. Harry Reid, of course, will have the final say on this bill. His hands should be all over the version that hits the Senate floor. He has announced that there will not be a recess for Senate members, no break the week of October 12th. That could be the time in which this bill has moved out of the Environment Committee. As for the climate bill itself, Harry Reid has said he expects it to be on the Senate floor by the end of the year. That is his latest prediction. As for today's rollout, flag-waving and sign-waving crowd members on hand for what was a major unveiling of the Boxer-Kerry bill. Senator Boxer said, quote, "This is our time," and this time has been coming since 9 months ago when she first announced her intention to introduce a cap-and-trade plan. John Kerry said this legislation would cover 75% of U.S. carbon emissions. 12 senators were on stage today, including Boxer and Kerry, all of them Democrats, 9 of them from the Environment Committee, 2 from Energy. Also, there were letters of support from Arlen Specter and Joe Lieberman. After the rollout today, Tom Carper sent a note, an email essentially, offering his tempered support for the bill. Sherrod Brown, well, he has stronger questions about the content of this bill and what it means for jobs and costs here in the U.S. Now, regarding this bill moving out of committee, EPW has a Democratic advantage of 12 members to 7, so it will move out of the committee. Little question about that. But there is the issue of emissions allocations. 25% of allowances would be auctioned under Boxer-Kerry, but no specifics about where the free allowances would go. Max Baucus, the chairman of the Senate Finance Committee, says he has jurisdiction here, and I asked John Kerry, who is a member of the Finance Committee, exactly how difficult that road will be ahead.
Do you anticipate that the Finance Committee will be the main battleground over allocations for emissions?
Not necessarily, no. I think the Environment Public Works Committee will do some of its own allocating, and the Finance Committee, which I serve on, will also take it up. You know, I think it's healthy to have good effort getting everybody invested in this. In the end, all 6 committees of jurisdiction are going to be melded, just like the health care bill, by Senator Reid, the leader. And so I think every committee needs to put its own thinking on the table. It's helpful.
Right, and as chairman of EPW, I've long said, I've told Chairman Baucus, he needs to act in any way he thinks is right for his jurisdiction, and we're very happy about it, because we do believe every committee that gets involved in this, their eyes will open into the possibilities.
I want to give you one more look at some of the main differences between Boxer-Kerry and the ACES Act, that is Waxman-Markey, that passed out of the House. And these are according to the most recent 801-page draft version, since this is still in flux to some degree. Under the Senate version, the CFTC would regulate carbon markets. Under Waxman-Markey, that was split between that commission and also FERC. The Senate version includes natural gas incentives for using this as a bridge fuel, not for transportation, but for electricity generation. Incentives for lower emissions, because natural gas has 50% fewer emissions roughly than coal does, so the transition for power plants from coal to gas would be involved. Also promoting gas as a backup to intermittent generation, in other words, the baseload power to support greater wind and solar generation. Also incentives for the nuclear industry, maybe not what that industry wants though. The NRC would get funding to move reactors into their 60 to 80-year lifespans, much further along than we have right now, roughly 40 years. Also funding for DOE for technical training. Again, a small chit, but at least this could be a placeholder for more incentives to come for nuclear. Also, a difference here in emissions targets. The initial target of 2020, there is a 20% reduction called for from 2005 levels in Boxer-Kerry. Now remember, Waxman-Markey ended up with a 17% reduction by 2020, but that was lowered during negotiations among House Democrats on the Energy Committee. Also, John Kerry pointed out the incentives for natural gas and nuclear in particular, and he also said some would be coming for coal, Susan. He said this bill is, quote, a very different and significant step forward from where we have been. He obviously sounds very encouraged about its prospects.
Certainly, Tyler, but for a bill that took so long to write, the legislation still has a lot of holes in it. Tell us more about these placeholders in the Boxer-Kerry bill, details that still have to be worked out later.
And they will be worked out during the negotiating process, Susan, no doubt. I think these are the intention of the respective chairmen to include various sectors in this bill, and the chance for them behind closed doors most likely to ask, what do you need? How can we get you on board? We have room for you here. The emissions target is just one of those. A nuclear title could be another one. Now, I talked yesterday to Senator Ben Cardin. We showed some of that conversation yesterday. He said that these placeholders, in his opinion, are really just part of the legislative process. This involves the details that we saw changing behind closed doors in the Waxman-Markey negotiations for those House Democrats in the Energy Committee before the markup process even began. That's how Henry Waxman ran the show, to get that through his committee. Now, John Kerry says as many as 6 Senate committees could claim jurisdiction over his bill with Barbara Boxer. And in turn, I asked Boxer about that and the effect of leaving so many holes in this bill with so many committees still to come.
Will the number of placeholders make it faster or slower through the markup process?
It depends on the committee chairs. They've really worked very well with us and very closely with us. And as you know, Chairman Baucus told Leader Reid that if Leader Reid gives him the go-ahead to do this, it will be done. So I think that the action of the other committees, as you know, fairly narrow. They're important, very important issues. They have to do with tariffs at the border. They have to do with being compliant with, the World Trade Organization for sure. So that has to be done. We have a placeholder for agriculture. We have a placeholder for the Commerce Committee on ocean issues, but they're not huge issues.
Over half the American economy is already voluntarily under a mandatory reduction scheme. You've got Reggie in New England, you've got the Midwest group, and the Western, California, Oregon, and Washington, and Canada. So there's an enormous amount of already of accomplishment at this point in time, and this bill needs to be understood in that context.
Although, however, the list that John Kerry just cited, only Reggie is really up and running. The rest are still in the creative, formative stages in terms of regional greenhouse gas programs. As for the rallying calls today, John Kerry said it is time to reinvent the way America uses energy. Barbara Boxer put it a little more succinctly, saying this process is like giving birth again. But Susan, I think the best way to sum this up came from Amy Klobuchar. She is a member of the Environment Committee. She is also a member of the Agriculture Committee, which could have a say in this bill. She said quite simply, quote, "It's not perfect."
All right. Well, that's for sure. Tyler Suiters, thank you.